Welcome to the Record Machine Show, a podcast featuring interviews from indie and renowned artists from all genres of music. Now, here's your host, James Michael Hollenstein.
Welcome to the Record Machine Show. I'm your host, James Michael Hollenstein. And today we've got a very special guest joining us. An accomplished saxophonist, multi-instrumentalist, educator, producer, mentor, radio host, and newly inducted Hall of Fame honoree, Walter Chancellor Jr. For more than 25 years, Walter has been a major force in the Twin Cities contemporary jazz and R&B scene, bringing his signature sound to stages and studios while shaping the next generation of music professionals as an instructor at the Institute of Production and Recording in Minneapolis. Originally from Des Moines, Iowa, Walter made the move to Minneapolis and soon found himself performing and recording with none other than Prince, earning a double platinum record for his participation on Prince's legendary Emancipation album in 1996. Over the years, he's performed and recorded and shared the stage with an incredible lineup of artists, including Chaka Khan, Willie Nelson, Maceo Parker, Dulfer, Larry Graham, Cameo, Musiq Soulchild, the Pointer Sisters, Bobby Lyle, the Platters, and many more. And congratulations are certainly in order because Walter has recently been honored with the prestigious Musiq Lifetime Achievement Award and officially inducted into Iowa's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a well-deserved recognition of his lifelong contributions to music and his lasting impact on the Iowa music scene. Walter also brings his passion for music to the airwaves as a host of the Beatnik Chronicles with Walter Chancellor Jr., airing on WFNU, where he takes listeners on a 1-hour journey through the rich history of jazz, funk, spoken word, and poetry, blending timeless classics with fresh new sounds, artist stories, and musical insight every week. Beyond the stage, studio, and radio microphone, Walter has dedicated years to mentoring future creatives, teaching audio and video post-production at IPR in Minneapolis, and helping launch the Twin Cities Mobile Jazz Project, exposing adults and children alike to jazz culture, music history, technology, and the arts. Today, we'll be talking about Walter's incredible music journey, his work alongside legendary artists, his recent Hall of Fame honor, his passion for education and radio, and we'll spotlight two standout songs, You Make Me Feel So Good and Time to Chill. And to kick things off, let's put the needle to the record and hear You Make Me Feel So Good by Walter Chancellor Jr. just heard You Make Me Feel So Good by Walter Chancellor Jr. And I have Walter on the line for a chat. Walter, welcome to the show. It's great having you here with us. To start things off, where did you grow up and where do you call home these days?
Well, home these days for that last question is Minneapolis. And I've been here for 39 years, but I basically grew up in Des Moines. And to give you a flash story on that, I was born in Evanston, Illinois, where Northwestern University is at, up in Chicago and Evanston in that suburb. And then my father passed away at a very young age, 31, and I was 4 years old. So my mother didn't want to raise us in the city of Chicago and decided to move us to Des Moines, as my mom and dad wanted to move there, as they would go through there to visit my other grandparents in Nebraska from Chicago.
Wow.
And my dad was like, hey, this is a great place. And, why can't we raise the kids here? So my mom just carried it out, basically. But Des Moines is pretty much where I was raised.
Nice.
Schooling from kindergarten on up until even going to college.
When did music first enter your life, and what inspired you to start playing and performing?
Well, there's this little story here. Down in Des Moines, when I was in elementary school, there was a guy named Bobby Stanton, and his father was like the first black fire chief in Des Moines ever. You know what I'm saying? So he was notable in the community, and his dad and so forth. And we had a program at our elementary school, Christmas. So, I always looked up to Bobby, and he is a funny cat, man, because when he laughed, he had a honk in his laugh, like, honk, honk, and anytime he laughed, man, like that, everybody would just start laughing, It was just crazy. It was so infectious. But anyway, he came up in front of the class. Well, not the class, but, we had chairs in this. We didn't really have an auditorium in this particular school. It was an old school. And they had these chairs out, and all the kids would come up and sing, Christmas carols and so forth. So Bobby comes up from the shadows, from behind the curtain, and he had this I'll never forget, he had a red jacket, dress jacket, red tie, white shirt, and he had black pants on. And it was just like, I was like, wow, look at Bobby, man, he's cool, this and that. And he had this case. So he breaks the case open, and he opens the case, and it was just so surrealistic for me as a kid then. I was like 8 years old. And he opens this case, and red velvet in it, so, offset with the jacket he had on. And I was like, wow, man, look at this. And he played Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Blew me away. I was just like, man, I got to get one of those. I just have to do it. And so I couldn't wait to get home. Of course, it was around Christmas time, and I ran in my house and, just ran home. And I said, Mom, I went in the kitchen. I'm grabbing on her dress. Mom, guess what? She was like, what? Hey, what are you doing? What's wrong with you?
Right. I
said, Mom, I want a saxophone for Christmas. She said, what? Where did you get all this from? All of a sudden, where did this come from? And I told her, I saw Bobby Stanton playing the sax. I want to get one too. So she said, okay, we'll see what we can do. So Christmas day came, and, I saw the present under the tree. And, it was a smaller box, pretty good size. And I opened it up. It was a plastic sax. And when you played into it, it just played little harmonies and stuff. So, I thought that was cool. It was close enough for me at the moment. And I would grab this plastic horn and go into the bathroom and just look at myself in the mirror or the bedroom. And I would have Junior Walker playing, okay?
Right.
And acting like I'm playing Junior Walker's song. So, I wore that thing out in the first month. It had a bunch of springs on it. It was a little cheap thing. And I was like, hey, Mom, can I get a real sax? So at that time, my mom was dating a guy, and, he was like in the room talking to my mom, and I could hear him from the other side of the room, from another room, and he was like, Elsie, you really should get that boy a real sax. We got to get him a real horn. He really wants to play. So they took me and I was like, yes, Bill, yes. And we went to a pawn shop, and I'll never forget it. Paid $60 for this used horn. And I started taking lessons at a place called Hollings Music there in Des Moines. and it was like one of the major music stores, and they gave lessons, sold instruments, and so forth. And I'll never forget my teacher's name. His name was Larry Lamb, and he was like, if you could imagine, back in those days, kids always had acne and stuff. Remember, back in the 60s?
Of course, yeah.
It was prevalent, and until they started getting these products that would, get rid of that. But he had acne, and he had these Buddy Holly glasses, and Larry Lamb, and that's the guy that taught me. I'll never forget his name, and that's why I started taking lessons. So, I wanted drums, and my mom was like, "No, I don't think we're going to get those."
Yeah.
So, she said, "Okay, we'll get the sax," and that's when we bought it from the pawn shop. And so from there, I started taking these lessons, and we'd have these, recitals at the high school. So, like 2 or 3 months would go by, and then they say, "Okay, we're going to have recitals at North High there in Des Moines." So, my mom would hear me practicing, and she was kind of nervous. I could tell she was nervous of taking me to this recital for the first time. And I got up there and put my music up, played my little sonata, what have you, and everybody clapped, and my mom's eyes were kind of like wide open. She's, and I won a blue ribbon.
Nice.
And I got first place. And, my mom was like, "Well, why don't you sound like that at home?" I said, "Well, Mom, I'm practicing. I'm doing these songs and this music and parts, I would always play the difficult parts and, go over those and then naturally just play it all the way through. I usually played it all the way through at my lesson because my teacher, Larry, would require me to play this particular piece. So from there, that was my beginning, of playing saxophone.
Wow. Now, your stepdad, did he get to watch you perform too? Was he proud of your performance with the saxophone?
Well, he would hear me at the house and things like that. And he was real cool. Actually, she was dating this guy. She never got married to him, but
okay.
She was dating him, and he was quite the father figure at that time, and he would always encourage me to play, and this and that and other, stick to this, and we bought you this horn, and follow through and what have you. Well, I fell in love with the horn.
That's
so
great.
and it was a tattered horn too. I mean, it wasn't like brassy and shiny like most saxophones you would see.
Right.
It was a used horn, but that was my heart. And then from there, got into the elementary school band. We had a band, and I forget my teacher's name, but he was kind of mean. But he would always. He was very. Let me say this. He was very. Just, you can't chew gum in class. You can't do that. You can't do this.
Right.
Shut up when I'm talking. He was one of those band leaders. So I went through that, and I remember a lot of friends that alongside with me that were taking instruments that either gave them up further down the line or continued to play. And then I got in an all-city band after that, after I got it between grade school and junior high. So it was called All-City Orchestra. So, my mom had me sign up for that, and I did that. And that was more classical type stuff,
right.
That we were playing with that particular group of kids. And then from there, junior high, I was in the band and played in the marching band. And we would play, the Drake Relays would come every year, Drake University, big event, and we would play at the event. They had different bands from different schools that would play pieces at this event. Track event, track and field. And then from there, I guess I was about 14, and a buddy of mine came by the house. He would deliver newspapers to our house. His name was Carl Burse Jr. And he came by and he said, "Man, I didn't know you played saxophone. Is that you in there playing?" I said, "Yeah." He says, come over my house. My dad has equipment in the basement, and they got a band and this and that. So I go over there, and he's playing drums. He didn't continue to play drums, but he played drums that day. And we played Wipeout.
Nice.
I was I learned that by ear, you know. And his dad hollers down the basement, "Hey, who's that down there playing saxophone?" Well, everybody knows me as Wally back home, you know. And he said, "That's Walter Chancellor." And he's like, "What?" He said, "Walter Chancellor plays sax." He came down. So he said, "I want you to come to our rehearsal. We're going to have a rehearsal on Thursday. I want you to come and play with us." So I actually got in the band.
Nice.
And I was 14, and they were playing at this place regularly in Des Moines, downtown Des Moines, called the Collins Club, I think it was. And so here I am, you know, in the club, 14 years old, and asked my mom, "Can I do that?" She said, "Yeah, you can, but behave." You know, so what I would do, I would take her mascara and, like, you know, I was starting to grow a little hair on my mustache, and, you know, I would paint that in and everything, and, you know, just trying to be grown, you know. So one night that I was playing there, and I was making pretty good money, man. I mean, it was like $30. I remember, like, you know, after Friday and Saturday, I have $30 in my pocket, and that was a little bit of change there. You know, we're talking 1967, 68.
Right.
And yeah, and so my mom was like, "Oh, okay, you're doing good." And I flipped my mom $10 or something, and she was all proud. "Wow, you're making a living doing this," you know. And so after that, I'm down at the club. So me trying to step into adulthood all of a sudden as a 14-year-old boy, 14. And I go up to the bar, and I was, you know, usually drinking pop and stuff like that. And I looked up on kind of a menu thing they had for specials for drinks. And the woman was like really hasty with me. She was like, okay, what do you want? What do you want? She was getting busy. I was like looking up there, and I didn't know what to order. And I said, "Oh yeah, gin sour. That's what I want. Gin sour up there." And so she gave me that. And so, you know, people would leave packs of cigarettes on tables, and it was nothing for people just to grab a cigarette out of a pack. It was just kind of a universal thing that nobody, "What are you doing?" you know, or anything like that. So there was a pack sitting on the table. So guess what? I'm going to fire up a cigarette, 14 years old with a drink in my hand. One of my mom's best friends was there.
Wow.
And she was like, she just came up to me. She goes, "So what are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm playing in the band." You know, she says, "What's that? What you got? You smoking a cigarette?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, I guess I am." And she said, "You got a drink. What is that in there? Give me that drink." And she smelled it. She said, "And you're down here drinking liquor. Does your mom know about this?" I was like, "She knows I'm down here." And so, you know, she says, I said, "Please." Her name was Elsie too, my mom's best friend. I said, "Miss Elsie, please don't tell Mom, please." Please. She said, "I don't know about this." So a week goes by, you know, I'm going to school, coming home. I'm just waiting for my mom to say something. And she goes, "How's your day at school?" I was like, "Oh, thank God. It was great, Mom. Had a great day. Great day." This and that. So a week went by. One day I came in, and she was on the phone, and she was like, "I'm going to have to call you back, you know, such and such." As soon as I walked in the door, she says, "What were you doing smoking and drinking down at the Collins Club?" So that was it. She says, "You can't go down there no more," you know. So I was like, "Oh, man, I blew it." So a couple of years went by, and I think it was about 15, 14, 15. It was about 15, about a year later. Joined another band with a group of guys, and his father, his name was Cecil Coleman, and Melvin was his son. He played organ, you know, and a Hammond. And we put a group together, and we had singers, and they would do steps and stuff. It was very Jackson 5 like, okay? They sang good, harmony and all that stuff. So I got in that band, but Mr. Coleman wouldn't let us mingle in the club. We played in clubs, and he managed us. We were making pretty decent money as a group, and they would always keep us in this green room towards the back, or band room, and we couldn't mingle in the club and stuff. So he was very protective of us, you know, getting caught up in, you know, stuff at being a young age with the adults. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was that. That was probably the first real band I was in. And we were called the Cold Sweats.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
So who were some of your biggest musical influences growing up, especially being a saxophonist and a multi-instrumentalist?
Well, there's this story I got to tell you about. So after my dad passed away, my mom kept a lot of his records. So he had a lot of Louis Jordan. I'm sure you know who that is.
Right.
Saxophonists of the day back in the 50s to the 60s. And I was listening to all those records, because I'm like, oh, my dad used to listen to these and blah, blah, blah. And at the time that I wanted a saxophone, my mom would tell me, your dad played trombone, and I think you should pick up the trombone instead of the sax. I said, no, Mom, I want a saxophone. I really want a sax. And then that's when she bought the sax for me back earlier when I was telling you about the pawn shop that we bought the $60 horn.
Right.
And so, time went on, and then again, I was getting better with my horns. So my mom bought me a newer horn. I got a baritone sax, and she bought me one there at Hollings. And I'm playing and this and that. She said, I really wish you could have played the same horn your dad played. Well, when I was 15, went to Chicago for the summer to hang out with my dad's mom and dad, my grandparents there in Chicago. So, I called her Big Mom. I said, Big Mom, is there any way I can get Dad's horn? Because Mom said you had his horn. And she was like, yeah, I think you're old enough to get it. So we go out in the garage. She had it stored. And went out there, and I saw this case, and I'm like, man, it doesn't look like a trombone case. What is that? But now it's me, man. She opened it up. It was a saxophone.
Wow.
It was a saxophone. It wasn't a trombone. So it's like I always pictured my dad speaking in my ear, don't play a trombone. I played sax when I played, speaking that in my ear after he had passed. But that's that story. So, Louis Jordan, and then after a while becoming, I would say after I got like 16, 17-ish, started listening to Grover Washington, and of course, Junior Walker with Motown, of course, that saxophone star.
Right.
Motown group. And just anything that had sax in it, I like Boots Randolph, you remember him?
Yeah. Yep.
So yakety sax, and I was trying to learn stuff like that. I thought it was really cool. Difficult song to play because there's a lot of tonguing that's involved in that. It was very, very challenging. So I was listening to stuff like that, but Grover was probably my biggest influence as I became coming up to like 16 and 17. Yeah, 1970.
All good names there. You made the move from Des Moines to Minneapolis during your career. What led to that decision, and how did relocating shape your musical journey?
Well, first of all, Des Moines, I was working a lot. I was in a band called Transit, and we played, we played probably from Tuesday through Saturday every week. And I had a job at that time, working and playing. At the same time, I had to be at work at, I would say, 5 o'clock in the morning. Then we would play. And I'm kind of jumping ahead here. So I'm talking about being about 23 years old. But I played in other bands. There was another band I played in before that called the Black Experience. And we put a big group together, and we played a lot of community centers and things. And this led me up to playing with this other band, Transit, playing in clubs. We played from Tuesday through Saturday. And so I was very busy, very, very busy. So that kind of dried up after about 2 years. The work was very abundant, and I was making really good money, at 22, 23 years old. And it dried up down there. We had a great music scene down there, really good musicians there. A lot of folks, different instrumentalists, singers, this and that and the other. And there was a scene there for a minute. And I just decided, man, good friend of mine's mother passed away. His name was Tommy Wolder. And I pretty much grew up with him 2 doors down from my house. And we were real good friends and tight and stuff. His mom was my mom, and vice versa with my mother's his. Kind of the community thing, raising us both. And she passed away. So he asked me to be a pallbearer, and went to the funeral, you know, the whole viewing the body thing and all that stuff. And I was just thinking, man, his mom was so pretty at one time, young woman, pitching softballs to us when we were younger. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, life is short. So my job, I told him I needed time off, and he says, okay, well, I know this isn't your direct mom, but you can take 2 days off. So I ended up taking 3, man, because I was pretty shook about it. Mm-hmm. And my boss calls me and he says, hey, you got to get back to work. And I said, well, I feel like I need another day. So he calls me after that. He says, hey, you got to come in. We got to talk about this and that and blah, blah, blah. Give you time off and da-da-da. So I go in, and the first thing I said to him, I said, hey, man, I'm quitting. I'm going to move out of town. I got to leave out of here. And I'd worked that job for 9 years. Mm-hmm. And I just decided that I wanted to move. It was either LA, it was going to be Denver, Chicago, or New York. So I picked Minneapolis. Prince was really hot at that time. And I decided to come here. So all my co-workers, the guys that were my friends, man, how are you going to make it up there? You didn't grow up with Jimmy and Terry Lewis, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, or Prince. Those guys are like family, and this and that and the other. And I was like, man, I got to go. I'm going to figure it out. Mm-hmm. So I quit, came up here to Minneapolis, $60 in my pocket. And back to what you were asking me about the different foods I like and stuff, sardine cans and, fresh vegetables. And that's how I was eating. And just got myself established here, got a job at a place called Boston Scientific up here. So I worked that job for 12 years and played music here in town as well. Mm-hmm. So I was still in that loop of working in the daytime and playing at night. But I always looked at my music as being my main thing. That was my main job, even though I was doing it 3 to 4 hours a day. Right. And I got in a house band, and we were playing over in St. Paul, little club called Everybody's, and we used to pack that place, man. Band was awesome. And then I met a young lady who's a friend of a schoolmate of mine that had moved here, and she was like, hey, my friend Lori, her husband, boyfriend at the time, her boyfriend dances in Prince, he's a dancer in Prince's band. Mm-hmm. Well, he was one of the dancers, if you remember the Purple Rain movie. Right. Kirk Johnson was his name. Mm-hmm. And him and Tony M, who's, on the song Sexy MF, he's the guy rapping on that. He was one of the dancers. And then another guy, what's his name? Started with a D. I'll think of it. But anyway, Kirk's wife heard me play, Kirk's girlfriend at the time. And she was like, you should go down and see Wally play, see him play over at this club. So he came over and we started writing songs together. He said, man, I like the way you sound. Let's start writing tunes together. So he had this little setup at his mom's house. And it was just like one of those, remember the little Macintosh SEs? Remember those? Yep. The little small one? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we started recording on these tracks that he had. He had these beats, and he had this Fostex 4 track and had it all synced up, and he pushed the space bar on that computer, and all this music pops out. I was like, oh, wow, how did you do that? He said, oh, man, I just kind of learned it along the way. And, being with Prince, he learned how to, work with some of that tech that was available at that time for music, making music, and it was basically MIDI. And so we just continued writing songs together and doing this and that. Ended up being a house band, and I'll send you that link so you can see that. But we had a 13-piece band, so we were a house band at Prince's Club Glam Slam. You've heard of that, right?
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yep.
Yeah, and so there was that going on, and we did that for about 1.5 years. So that's when Kirk, he was a drummer in that band. We had a 13-piece band. And he introduced me to Prince, and then that's when I connected with him. So that was the connection, and that was my beginnings here in Minneapolis up until the time I met Prince.
One of the major highlights of your career includes working with Prince and contributing to his Emancipation album, earning a double platinum record. What was that experience like, and what stands out most from working with such an iconic artist?
Well, first of all, it was unbelievable that he popped in at a rehearsal of ours. We put a band together, Kirk Johnson and myself. Upon meeting him, we were writing songs, and we put a band together. And it was called TKO, the Kaj Orchestra, KAJ. And with the house band at Prince's Club Glam Slam. So, he came to one of our rehearsals, and I had been here like 5 years, and I had never seen Prince. Everywhere they said Prince would be, I would go there, and he would never be. Oh, well, he just left. You missed him, dude, for 5 years. And then here it was, he came into our rehearsal, man. I just froze up. It was amazing seeing him in real life and all that, and being here 5 years and never meeting him. So that's when I met him. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. And what was he like?
Yeah. Prince, he was very, very flamboyant, as you know, and his dress and everything. And personality-wise, he was great. Now, just to fast forward, I worked with him even after the Emancipation record. I did some other things with him. I was called out. I got a call that he wanted me to come out to Paisley Park and work on a record that he did after the Emancipation record with Chaka Khan. Him and Larry Graham pretty much produced that record with a wide array of other musicians. And I got to play on a song called Reconsider, And what was really crazy about that is I'm in the studio, went out there, and I'm looking in the recording booth. Not the recording booth, but the control room. And there stands Chaka Khan. Next to her was Larry Graham. And then I'm looking at Prince. So I'm recording these horn parts for Chaka's tracks. And, he was always easy to work with, And just to get to the answer of the question of how was he, it was just all normal, but it was so surrealistic because these icons sitting in front of me and recording with him, and then the Emancipation record, recording with him on that, and earning a double platinum record was just way over my head of what I ever expected to happen to me for moving up here,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You mentioned Chaka Khan and Larry Graham, but you've also shared this stage and studio with Candy Dulfer and Willie Nelson and Cameo and so many others. Is there one collaboration or performance that really stands out for you?
I would say Prince. And that moment when Larry Graham, Chaka, and him were in the studio, that really stood out because, as I was coming up, I'm buying all these folks' records. And then here they are sitting, and watching me perform in the studio. And Prince kind of played a little trick, just as you asked. He was a playful cat. And so, I was kind of nervous, and I had one take, and I was just like, okay, that was okay. But, he says, well, hey, just let's do another take. He says, just relax. He says to me, he goes, I know, Walter, that you're sitting here and you have Chaka Khan, Prince, and Larry Graham sitting in front of you. I would be nervous too. So he got a laugh out of me. And then from there, I did the take, and he played a little trick on me. He must have told Larry and all those guys just to stare at me. And they were staring at me after that take, and I thought, I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm like, wow, that sounded pretty good. And they were just staring. And then they just started clapping all of a sudden.
Nice.
So he's a playful cat. And I worked with him even up until 2014 because I taught at a recording school up here, Institute of Production and Recording up here in Minneapolis, and I taught there 18 years. So I actually got a couple of my students jobs there. A guy named Derek Lindsay, he worked with Prince for 6 months after I sent him out. And my prerequisite was like, man, don't embarrass me. You go out there to work for him, you're going to have to follow through in whatever it is he wants. And he was there for about 6 months. And then after that, it came up to and that was in 2013. And then came 2014, January, Prince called upon me to come out and do some technical stuff with Pro Tools, which is what we taught at the school that I at the institute. And I went out there and I worked with him for a whole month after that. We played ping pong, we talked. He was just, giving me game about, being independent in music and what to do and, make sure you own all your masters and so forth. So it led up to that. And then 2 years later, then that's when Prince actually passed away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But we played ping pong and, just shooting the doo-doo and just having a really good time,
Yeah.
That was the closest I came up upon him, and it was great. And what was really different for me is that all the times I went to Paisley, if you're working with him, somebody else would always answer the door after you ring the doorbell. And so this instance, that last time I was there, he came to the door and he just put his hand out and says, hey, Walter, thanks for coming out. Come on in. This is what I need you to do, blah, blah, blah. And we just went from there. So, yeah.
That's very cool. Well, first off, I want to congratulate you on being honored with the prestigious Matusak Lifetime Achievement Award and also your induction into the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What did receiving those honors mean to you, especially considering your deep roots in Iowa's music scene?
Well, it meant a lot because they did their homework on me, of course, and someone nominated me down there for my, teaching in the school and the college for 18 years. And actually, one of the students that I had that I told you I sent to Prince got a Grammy just like a couple 3 years ago. So they saw all that flavor as it relates to me moving up here, and just thought and acknowledged me as to being recognized. So then I got inducted, with the Lifetime Achievement Award there.
That's very cool. Do you get like a plaque and stuff like that inside of a building, or just a plaque to take home?
Well, that's going to happen in September. It's going to be the weekend of Labor Day in September. And that's when I go down to receive it. And they're going to put a makeshift band together. And I'm just going to play a couple of tunes. Probably none of the ones I do, but just, I chose to do like Sting's Fragile.
Nice.
I want to do an instrumental of that particular song, and I want to play it on soprano sax. So we just had the conversation with the people that's going to be in that band to learn it and, get a couple of singers. I guess there's going to be a couple of female vocalists that are going to share in that song as well. And of course, I'll probably solo and kind of mimic through the song as well. So
nice. Let's talk about a couple of songs. Your song, You Make Me Feel So Good, which listeners heard at the top of the show. What inspired that song, and what do you hope people take away from it?
You Make Me Feel So Good is basically something that romanticizes a man and woman's relationship. We've all had a love that made us feel so good, And at that time when I wrote the song was years ago. And then I ended up redoing it with Chris Big Dog Davis, who works with just tons of people. Gerald Albright, he works with, he's worked with Mesa, who used to be in, what was that group? I can't think of it right now, but she's real popular in the R&B, neo soul thing, genres of the day now. Mm-hmm. And he just decided, hey, man, let's try to work on this tune together and let's revitalize. He's a hell of a producer. And so we just, we sent files back and forth until it was done, and he's up in Connecticut. So that was that tune. Yeah. And I would say the biggest song for me was probably Beautiful Day, in which I recorded here in my studio. It was pretty much done, but I gave it to Chris, and Chris refined it, and I ended up getting on Billboard with that, made Billboard, and also got on Sirius XM radio on Watercolors, which is the big smooth jazz station on Sirius XM. So that was great for me. That ran for that was in 2019. That ran for about a year and a half. Yeah, they played it. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. We'll also be featuring your other song, Time to Chill, at the end of the show. Tell us about that track and how did it come together and what kind of vibe were you hoping to create with that one?
Well, see, that was kind of on Chris because a lot of the songs I would play or send to him, he'd say, hey, let's work on this one. So it was just something that he wanted to work on. And I was just like, okay, go for it. Because he's had a ton of number one smooth jazz hits with a bunch of people. And he played with me in Des Moines, believe it or not. And he moved back to Connecticut. He moved from Connecticut to Des Moines. And we had a band called Transit, which was affiliated to the band Transition. And it was affiliated with the band Transit. So it was kind of a jazz fusion band. So we had that experience together. But he was kind of, I got to give it to him. He was definitely the mogul for that song. Yeah. And pushing me forward to do that. And we just sent files back and forth, via Dropbox and what have yous. And then the song was completed, got it mastered, and then I put it out.
Nice song. Your music blends contemporary jazz and R&B so smoothly. How would you describe your sound and creative process when writing, arranging, and producing music? Well,
it always starts for me in my studio. I just come up with a drum beat that catches me. Then I'll go to the piano because I do play piano. I use the piano to write. And I'll play some chords, and then from there I'll put a bass part down and start adding other elements of music and things like that till it comes together, and I just make it make sense, as it relates to staying within the smooth jazz genre of music. And that's my process, for every song, is that's how I work it out.
Nice. Now, beyond performing, you mentioned earlier you spent years mentoring students and teaching audio and video post-production at IPR. What has it meant to you to help guide and inspire the next generation of musicians and creatives?
Well, being that I don't have any children, and when I counted how many students I had while teaching there, I had like 2,400 to 2,700 students go through my class. So for me, it just means a lot as it relates to my legacy living through them and what they do. And I get a lot of thanks from them when I go in the field. I see some of them working in some of the jazz clubs, bigger jazz clubs, and different venues, and at the casinos doing running sound. They're everywhere. I go to I'll go to Guitar Center and see some working there. So it means a lot to see that they, pursued and stayed with the music in some sort of way, stayed connected with the business,
Yeah.
So it means a lot to me, yeah. And my whole thing in these days is legacy while I'm living, and as well as putting out more music. I'll probably be putting out tons of music probably from this point on until whenever, because I have tons of stuff here, and I'm going to remix it. There's ways that now you can take a 2-track song and put it in the software and just separate all the tracks for you, which is called stems.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always wanted to have that kind of technology, and they finally came upon it now. So that gives me an opportunity to take pieces and parts of different things and put them together within the song and to come up with a finished product.
Nice. Are you teaching anyone right now?
No. I did that for 18 years. That's long enough. I retired.
Oh, okay.
So, and that's where I'm at this present time. So now I'm just getting back to on the one, just with my music and putting things out. And I want to do spoken word, and basically I have a branding which is called the Beatnik Chronicles, which is just more or less just little shorts of lo-fi type music intermittently with spoken word, and maybe get some spoken word younger artists here in the studio, have them work with me or that kind of thing. But I want to do music that has sensibilities as it relates to our social standing in this day and time, and doing things that are that awaken people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just at that place now. I mean, it was one thing to teach the technical stuff when I was at the college, but I even interjected things of life and just how to get along with people in the business, and always, because you just never know. Somebody you don't like at one moment could be somebody that's way up in some other area in the business that could help you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you don't have a good relationship with them, then guess what? It's a failed opportunity.
So when can the listeners expect something new from you to come out?
I would say in about another month. There's a release, my very first record that I put out in 1996, and it was called Saxophone Man. And I'm going to re-release that because at that time, everything was CD, right? There was no music platforms, in existence. It was just either radio or DJ. So I'm putting that back out. It's called Saxophone Man. So I'm thinking probably around the 21st of July or so.
Very
22nd.
cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my target date for the moment. Mm-hmm. During the summer solstice is what I'm aiming for.
Very cool. Now, besides writing and recording music, I understand that you also host a radio show. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. It's scheduled every Tuesday, and it's called the Beatnik Chronicles Show with Walter Chancellor Jr., and that's every Tuesday. And there's Saturday as well. I usually do a recast of what the Tuesday show is, but I'm going to start having a separate show for Tuesdays and Saturdays, and that's on WFNU Radio 94.1 out of St. Paul. And it's best to stream it online at that scheduled time, whether Tuesday or Saturday from 7 to 8 p.m. And I'm playing like lo-fi grooves, jazzy, kind of lo-fi, laid back and very chilled and lo-fi type of grooves, man. Yeah.
Awesome. So is radio something that you always wanted to get into?
Yeah, well, I took radio in my high school years, and I took radio and TV production. So I've always been interested in DJing or whether working with film and that kind of casts over to what I actually taught at IPR at the college there, Institute of Production and Recording. But that show can be streamed at WFNU.org, and they have an app for it as well, and all you have to do is go to the demand section if you if you just download the app, you can go to to that one button that says on demand, and there's a bunch of shows on the station.
Nice.
And you just scroll down and you go to everything's in alphabetical order. It's called The Beatnik Chronicles Show with Walter Chancellor Jr., and that's at WFNU 94.1. Now their station, their station with the antenna, is it's only mostly for that neighborhood in St. Paul.
Okay.
But you can always stream it and at any time with the app, and then on the scheduled days from 7 to 8, WFNU.org.
Awesome. I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, check it out, man. And I think you'll like the music. It's laid back. It's something great to, listen to while you're cleaning your house, making food. You get in a romantic mood or something. It's stuff like that.
Very cool. How long you been doing it now?
It'll be 2 years in October. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I'm still trying to catch on with it and make it something that's a little bit more explicit in its appearance, and with people knowing about it and spreading the word, so forth.
Well, I'm a big radio fan, so I'm definitely going to have to check that out.
Yeah, hope so, man. And I think you'll enjoy it.
Now, for the people tuning into this broadcast, where can the listeners follow your journey online? Do you have a website or social media you'd like to share?
Yeah, my website is Walter Chancellor. Sometimes that name is hard to spell, but WalterChancellorJr.com is my website. And I'm on social media, Instagram, Funky Saxman, spelt with a P, or just if you look up my name, it'll come up as Funky Saxman, which is kind of my alias for that. And then on Facebook, my name is, you can see all my pages. You just put in Walter Chancellor, and there's several pages that come up for that. One being my main page, personal page, and then the other is Walter Chancellor's Music Cafe. And then there's another one called Walter Chancellor Jr.'s music group. Yeah.
Nice.
So they're easily found. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure all those links are up on your website as well, right?
Oh yeah. Yep. All you got to do is hit the little, Instagram moniker, and Facebook and so forth. So it's very explicit and right there at the top of the right page on the first page.
Awesome. Now, Walter, before we wrap things up, is there anything that you'd like to mention that we didn't cover today?
Well, first of all, it is Memorial Day as when we're recording this. And I would like to thank all the soldiers and all the servicemen that have, laid their lives down for the country here in the military. And I would like to say that. And being a military person myself, I was in the Marine Corps. I joined when I was 17 years old, and I was in there for a spell. And, got separated from that. And after that, pretty much is when I went down to Florida with a 13-piece show band. And we toured Florida, Georgia, and did all that. And then I came back, and then that's when I started working my job and things like that. But the service served me well. It helped me to, become the person I am in a lot of respects, and discipline and so forth, and independence mostly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Walter, I want to thank you for your service, and also want to thank all the brave men and women who sacrificed their lives for our freedom. Today is your day, and we celebrate you.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to put some ribs on and celebrate with that with a nice, healthy meal. Yeah.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's kind of the normal thing to do this on this holiday. Everybody barbecues, burgers, hot dogs, ribs, this and that and the other. How far you want to go with the food.
Yeah. Well, Walter, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been great chatting with you.
Hey, thanks for, having me on, and thanks again to John KT, for hooking me up with you. And I give him a shout out for connecting me with you.
Yeah.
And becoming associates in this business, and so forth and so forth.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do this again sometime. Maybe in the fall, after you got a couple of releases out, we could hook back up again and do another chat. That would be great.
It would be my honor, James.
Awesome.
I'm available. I got nothing but time. I'm retired, so 3 a.m, 4 a.m, whatever, whenever, what time, whatever day.
That's awesome.
We can always do that, man. So, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll definitely be in touch with you as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we both got each other's contact info, so we'll definitely be staying in touch. And like I said, happy Memorial Day, and enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll be in touch, my friend, all right?
You too, James. I really appreciate you, man, and thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You take care, all right?
All right, you too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye now.
Walter, thank you so much for joining me today on the Record Machine Show. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing about your incredible journey from your roots in Des Moines, Iowa, to becoming a respected force in the Minneapolis contemporary jazz and R&B scene, working alongside legendary artists, contributing to Prince's Emancipation album, and now receiving the incredible honor of the Maceo Lifetime Achievement Award and induction into the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's also been great hearing about your passion for keeping music alive, not only through your performance and recordings, but also on the air through the Beatnik Chronicles with Walter Chancellor Jr. on WFNU, where listeners can experience your love for jazz, funk, spoken word, poetry, and the stories behind the music every week. And beyond the performances and recordings, your commitment to education, mentorship, and the community outreach through your years at IPR and the Twin Cities Mobile Jazz Project truly speaks to the impact you've made, not just as a musician, but as someone helping inspire and shape the next generation. Be sure to follow Walter Chancellor Jr., check out his music, and tune in to the Beatnik Chronicles with Walter Chancellor Jr. on WFNU. You can learn learn more about the station and listen online at WFNU.org. And to close things out, we're going to leave you with another great track from Walter Chancellor Jr. Time to Chill. I'm James Michael Hollenstein, and this has been The Record Machine Show. Until next time, keep those records spinning.
The Record Machine Show is a weekly radio podcast produced by Jimmy Hall Productions. All rights reserved. For distribution information or to add this podcast to your website, please visit our contact page at therecordmachineshow.com to submit your request. Thanks for listening. See you next time on The Record Machine Show.